Joseph Ochieno is a writer and commentator on African affairs. I asked him about Mnangagwa's praise of Mugabe and his promise to bring prosperity back to Zimbabwe.
I think he was right on both counts. Mr. Mugabe is indeed the founding president of Zimbabwe. I know Mr. Mugabe has been demonized, particularly in the West, but yes, Mugabe was the first president the people of Zimbabwe knew in over 100 years of colonialism. Number two, in terms of being able to restore the economy of Zimbabwe, they themselves, ZANU-PF, which included both of the presidents, had done very well from 1980 to about 1995, when obviously they fell out with the West and sanctions were imposed on Zimbabwe. Obviously, naturally, it was a very, very difficult job from then on going forward. So quite clearly, all that Zimbabwe needs is a chance, a new chance and an opening with the rest of the world to trade. Had it not been China, Zimbabwe would have collapsed a long time ago. So once sanctions are lifted and once Zimbabwe is opened up for business with everybody else, there's no reason why Zimbabwe doesn't really renew itself and grow forward with like the rest of the African countries.
In that speech, President Mnangagwa also said the country, he himself, is ready and willing for a steady re-engagement with all the nations of the world. What will that look like?
I think basically, if I get you right, it was very much about an open message to simply say that let's reconcile, give us a chance, particularly in the West, we are open. He talked about one of the things he's actually going to be doing is auditing the land reform process, where a number of people, both whites and people who were not necessarily ZANU-PF, felt that they had raw deals. He is quite open to this kind of discussion. Once that is actually done, once he rebuilds relationships, and I know that they are having talks with London and Washington and other major capitals on the West, backed by China, who are actually continuously good friends of Zimbabwe. I think he's simply clearly meaning that, look, he's open, he's a different person, he's been there, substantial experience, but as a different person, he's going to take Zimbabwe in a relatively new direction. But by and large, mainstream is very much about ZANU-PF still in charge. The ZANU-PF policies did not let down Zimbabwe, except for, as I said, the disagreement with the West in about 1995, when the West decided to abandon Zimbabwe and turn Zimbabwe into like some kind of isolated Cuba or North Korea of Africa. That's really how we ended up here. It was really not because Zimbabwe had failed. As I said, the first 15 years of independence in Zimbabwe was extremely prosperous.
Now let's talk about the new president, Emmerson Mnangagwa himself. Many associate him with the ruling elite. Let's look at his background. He spent 10 years in jail when the white minority was the rulers. He has 37 years of experience in government. 20 people were allegedly killed when he was national security minister. What kind of a leader do you think he will be?
I think you've just said extremely experienced, extremely able, and actually, if you hear the accolades to him from even some of his own opponents in Zimbabwe, you'd find that he's extremely impressive as a leader. But again, in Africa, who's not an elite, in fact, around the world, who comes to power, who's not part of the established elite? I think the issue is what people do with power.